你到底是什么人？
无论你的身份变成什么样，你都是我的徐三石。
斗灵帝国交给我，黄龙邪军魂道师团全员立即集合。团长，杀光他们，一个不留。敌人从哪里发动的攻击，我们怎么办才好？别以为我找不到你们，我倒要看看谁先撑不住。要是让我抓到那两个家伙，一定都成了碎尸万段。差不多该上重头戏了。
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we will be looking at how Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong turned the hunt around on two of the Sun Moon Empire's most feared Soul Engineer legions, how a shocking secret about Shu Sanqi's bloodline comes to light, and how the fallout from the attack on Douling City reshapes the war. Before we dive in, kindly smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. The episode begins with Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong regrouping with their teammates right after the intense strike on Douling City's royal palace. Huo Yuhao immediately pulls Shu Sanqi aside. He explains that Douling City is in ruins. The royal palace has been destroyed and it's unclear if anyone from the royal family survived. His plan is simple. Shu Sanqi and the rest of the group will head into Douling City to reveal their identities as Shrek Academy students, restore order, and search for any surviving royals. Meanwhile, Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong will chase down the two Soul Engineer legions responsible for the attack, hoping to catch them while they're separated from the main Sun Moon Empire army and force them to pay for what they've done. Shu Sanqi agrees, though privately he already senses that whatever they find in the city won't be good news. The Sun Moon Empire had struck with immense precision, going straight for the royal palace, and Shu Sanqi understood that even the Star Lo Empire could have suffered the same fate under a surprise assault like this. Their enemy had simply outplayed them on surveillance and intelligence, and there was nothing that could be done about that now except pick up the pieces. Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong take to the sky and track down the retreating legions before they can regroup with the wider Sun Moon Empire forces. Meanwhile, Shu Sanqi leads the rest of the group toward the city gates. When they call up to the battlement, the guards are too shaken and suspicious to simply let strangers inside, so Shu Sanqi tosses up his Shrek Academy identity token to prove who they are. Once it's verified, the gates finally creak open and a young general steps out to meet them. He explains that the attack came without warning, tearing through the royal palace and every important defensive position before the city's forces could even organize a response. Shu Sanqi asks the general to stand his men down and let him take over restoring order, but the general understandably refuses to abandon his post for a stranger. That's when Shu Sanqi pulls out a hidden necklace, a golden token bearing jewels that spell the words Douling, a symbol only ever given to members of the royal family. The general immediately drops to one knee, addressing him as Prince. It turns out that this pendant once belonged to Shu Sanqi's mother, a princess who had been the previous emperor's favorite daughter before she eloped with Shu Sanqi's father, against the royal family's wishes. With the city's soldiers now rallying behind him, Shu Sanqi led over 1,000 men into Douling City to help contain the chaos and protect what remains of its people. On the other side of the conflict, Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong finally catch up to the retreating legions. Using his spiritual detection, Huo Yuhao locks onto their position and the two of them begin harassing the formation with a modified long-range cannon of his own design, firing from a safe distance that the enemy simply can't reach. The goal isn't to do heavy damage, it's to force the Soul Engineers to keep reinforcing their linked defensive barrier and burn through their energy reserves before they can put real distance between themselves and Douling City. At first it works, but Sha Yuesun and Shu Tianyuan quickly catch on. They order their men to stop overreacting to every single shot, since none of the individual blasts are actually strong enough to threaten them, and the harassment starts losing its bite. Seeing that the constant pestering alone isn't rattling them anymore, Huo Yuhao switches tactics and brings out a far more dangerous soul tool, a formidable Class 9 decomposition cannon, powerful enough to shatter even the strongest linked defensive barriers. He fires a single precise shot that instantly takes out one of the Imperial Dragon Legion's Soul Engineers, and the entire formation is thrown into a wave of fear. Nobody in either legion has ever seen a weapon like it before, and both commanders instantly recognize just how expensive and rare a Class 9 decomposition cannon actually is. Sha Yuesun quickly reassures his men that a weapon like that can't be fired more than once a day, even though that isn't quite true, just to keep morale from completely collapsing. Both commanders realize that they are dealing with opponents who are far more dangerous than they expected, and they decide their best option is to land, rest, and regroup before figuring out their next move. Watching from above, Hu Yuhao easily reads their strategy, but instead of simply avoiding the trap, he decides to walk right into it on his own terms. He shares an idea with Tong Wu Tong, one that isn't really about wiping out the two legions at all. Instead, he wants to weaken and humiliate the Imperial Dragon Legion in particular, since it's directly controlled by the Sun Moon Empire's royal family and carries enormous political weight. Behind the joking exchange between the two of them lies a much more serious point. If the Sun Moon Empire is going to end up ruling more of the continent no matter what happens next, Hu Yuhao would still rather see that power land in Juzi's hands than in Shu Tianran's or the Holy Ghost Church's. Tong Wu Tong laughs it off, teasing him for being so nervous about being misunderstood, but agrees to go along with whatever he has planned. As the legions rest, their surveillance tools suddenly detect a massive number of figures surrounding them from the forest below. Panic briefly ripples through the ranks until the trees are cleared away, revealing an entire army of skeletal warriors, twisted zombies, headless knights, and other horrifying undead creatures closing in from every direction. It's a spectral army, summoned from Hu Yuhao's own spectral demiplane and led by his loyal spirit Bai. The two commanders, having never encountered anything like it before, immediately assume they are being targeted by evil soul masters affiliated with the Holy Ghost Church, since only such sorcerers would command an undead force on this scale. The Soul Engineers fight back hard, and their firepower initially proved more than a match for the spectral horde tearing through wave after wave of undead with ease. But the sheer horror of facing an army of monsters instead of human soldiers begins to wear on them psychologically far more than any physical attack ever could. When a mysterious incantation causes the fallen spectral creatures to rise again from the battlefield, the soldiers become convinced their enemies simply cannot be permanently defeated, and their discipline shatters completely. Despite Xiao Shengchen's shouted orders to stop, the Soul Engineers keep firing in a desperate frenzy, completely out of control, until they've cleared every visible spectral creature and collapsed from sheer exhaustion. When someone lets slip that even more spectral creatures are still waiting deeper in the woods, a fresh wave of panic hits them, and a handful of soldiers try to flee the barrier entirely. Shu Tianran is forced to make a harsh example of them just to restore order, then pulls out one of his legion's most valuable weapons, a Class 9 stationary soul cannon shell, and fires it into the trees to reassert control and clear the remaining spectral creatures in front of everyone. It works, morale stabilizes, and the two commanders finally allow their exhausted men to rest. What none of them realize is that Hu Yuhao deliberately pulled his spectral army back before that shot ever landed, sparing himself heavier losses, and that he's holding back rather than escalating further. As a former Class 9 Soul Engineer himself, he knows something the Sun Moon Empire's men don't. Their defensive barrier can block energy attacks just fine, but it can't fully block extreme changes in temperature. As snow begins falling and the exhausted legions settle in to recover, Hu Yuhao quietly channels his ice attribute martial soul, blanketing the resting camp beneath a spreading dome of spirit-forged snow and ice, its aura masked from their instruments. Hours pass as the legions rest inside what looks like nothing more than heavy snowfall, unaware that a punishing drop in outside temperature is quietly building around them the entire time. When they finally decide it's time to leave and blast their way out of the ice, they step straight into a devastating cold beyond anything they were prepared for. Before they can fully regroup and rise into the sky, a series of explosions tear through the weakest defensive groupings, and dozens of Soul Engineers are wiped out in an instant, their formations too thin and too frozen to withstand the blast. Roughly 70 of the original 300 Soul Engineers are lost in those chaotic few minutes, with the Evil Eye Tyrant Legion taking the heaviest losses of the two. Shaken but still disciplined, the survivors reform their linked barrier and flee westward, desperate to put distance between them and whatever unseen enemy keeps striking without warning. Along the way, one badly wounded soldier is deemed beyond saving, and by military custom, Shu Tianran moves to deliver a swift killing blow to spare him further agony. But the moment he makes contact, it becomes clear that something is terribly wrong. That wounded soldier is not who he appears to be at all. It's Hu Yuhao in disguise, having infiltrated the formation earlier using his imitation and spiritual interference abilities. In a single devastating strike, Shu Tianren, one of the Sun Moon Empire's Class 9 Soul Engineers and a member of its royal family, is killed instantly, along with several soldiers standing near him. Hu Yuhao and Tong Wutong vanish from the scene before anyone can even register what happened, taking with them one of the Imperial Dragon Legion's most prized treasures in the ensuing chaos. Xiao Shangchen is left completely reeling. Not only has his ally and fellow commander been killed right in front of him, but when he searches through the wreckage afterward, the Legion's treasured heirloom is nowhere to be found. He concludes that their unseen attackers must be evil soul masters after all, hunting for treasure rather than simply trying to kill them. And he vows revenge against the Holy Ghost Church for a crime they never actually committed. Several soldiers nearby are also left in a disturbed and altered state from the encounter, and Xiao Shangchen orders them killed before they can cause any more harm to the rest of the group. Watching from a distance, Tong Wutong admits she feels uneasy about everything they've just done. Huo Yuhao doesn't try to dismiss her feelings. He acknowledges that war forces impossibly hard choices, but reassures her that he tried to show as much restraint as he possibly could throughout the entire encounter. He reflects on how Juzi once told him he was too soft for this kind of conflict, and admits that if Hu Yuhao and Tong Wutong want any real chance of turning the tide of this war, they can't afford to hold back the way they used to. Still, he promises to try to stay true to who he is as the fighting grows more intense around them. With that settled between them, the two of them turn back towards Doling City, hoping they can help stabilize things there before anything else goes wrong. When they arrive, the city has gone quiet, with soldiers patrolling under a strict curfew instead of the chaos they'd left behind earlier. Using his spiritual detection, Huo Yuhao quickly locates Su Sanxi and the rest of their group near the ruins of the royal palace, surrounded by soldiers and officials who react with alarm the moment the two of them silently appear. The instant Huo Yuhao sees Su Sanxi's face, he can tell something is deeply wrong. His usually easygoing, joking friend now looks hardened and exhausted, his eyes red-shot, radiating a killing intent none of them have ever sensed from him before. Jiang Nannan quietly fills Huo Yuhao in on everything that happened while he was gone. The timing of the Sun Moon Empire's attack was devastating, striking right when the Doling Empire's royal family had gathered together in one place, wiping out nearly the entire bloodline in a single blow. In the chaos that followed, Su Sanxi revealed a secret piece of his own past that even his closest friends never knew. His mother was once a princess of the Doling Empire, who eloped for love, and Su Sanxi carries royal blood through her. Using an old token she left behind, he managed to calm the panicked defenders and hold the city together during its darkest hour. As the surviving officials and generals gather around him, an old general kneels before Su Sanxi and openly asks him to take charge, since the royal family has nearly been wiped out, and the empire desperately needs a leader right now. The premier, more cautious by nature, worries about accepting such a serious claim to the throne on faith alone, especially with the empire's fate hanging in the balance. Su Sanxi doesn't back down from the challenge. He steps forward and lays out his story plainly for everyone present. His mother was the previous emperor's daughter who eloped for love with the master of the mysterious underworld family, and Su Sanxi is her son. To prove it beyond any doubt, he reveals his martial soul, the legendary Xuanwu shield, an evolved form of his once ordinary shield soul, along with 8 soul rings that mark him as a genius even among Shrek Academy's most talented students. The revelation stuns everyone present, and the premier, still processing what he's seeing, presses further, wanting to understand exactly how such a rare mutation could have happened at all within his family line. Su Sanxi doesn't stop there. He reveals that he's also a member of Shrek Academy's Inner Courtyard, one of the champions known across the continent as the Shrek 7 Monsters, and that he carries a 100,000-year spirit named Golden Tortoise, granted through Huo Yuhao's revolutionary new spirit system. He explains that their small team had been sent ahead as reinforcements, and that if they had only arrived a little sooner, the tragedy that befell Doling City might have been prevented entirely. Then, with the room already stunned into silence, he introduces the man standing quietly nearby as Huo Yuhao, the second strongest soul master in all of Shrek Academy, second only to the ultimate Do Luo elder Zwen himself, and the future master of the Sea God's Pavilion. So that's all for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed the video. If you did, kindly like the video, and if you are new to the channel, consider subscribing. In the next episode, we'll see how Susan Shi's claim to the Doling throne unfolds, and what it means for Huo Yu Hao and the rest of Shrek's 7 monsters going forward. So see you in the next video.